Classic Rock Radio.
Breaking Out of Hell reached position 3 in the German charts, so it looks like you're raising the bar every 3 years with every album, especially in Germany. You're going up with every new album.
Yep.
Is there any special connection?
Plane sort of going up.
Yeah,
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Is there any special connection to the German fan base?
Oh, of course. A German fan base. We love them. They love us. It's a beer drinking crowd. It's all about a good time. It's just It just works really well. It's similar to Australia. We have German settlers in Australia, and Australians are very similar to Germans in their mentality of having a good time.
All right. I saw you play on so many big festivals in the next few weeks. The Download Festival, Nova Rock, Crass Pop. You're very, very busy in the next few weeks. Ain't it sometimes really tough to be on tour? I mean, especially I saw, for example, on the 32 of June you play in Germany. Next day on the 23 in Denmark. On the 24th of June in Norway. Not a single day to breathe and relax. How you do that?
Well, we love playing rock and roll. We love being out here. We'd be more out of breath if we were at home, just with nothing to do, drinking at the pub. So it's actually really good to be out playing, and we're just all really happy to be here, I guess.
Yes, what Ryan said, just happy to be here, yeah.
All right, admit it, you sold your soul.
Otherwise we'd be out of breath at the pub.
Admit it. You sold your soul to the devil, admit it.
Oh, well, the devil, he's not so bad, he's in the grand scheme of things. The devil's all right, Number of the beast. His number is 666.
All right. No, but seriously, if you're on stage, you're always playing at the limit, or that's what it looks like. And the paradox thing is that it seems like you're getting your energy from rock and roll while you produce rock and roll. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's not. We don't. Unfortunately, we don't go to the gym. We probably should be and stuff like that, but we don't really do that. We sort of we do. We Joel goes for runs. And sometimes, basically, yeah. So we do draw from the crowd. You get up there, the adrenaline, everyone starts getting involved, big circle pits and all that sort of stuff, and sort of, I guess we've been doing it. That's how we draw our energy from since we were kids.
All right, but is there any kind of ritual or any kind of training you perform in front of your performance?
Oh, not really. Apart from getting pissed in my hotel room, rocking out to AC/DC concerts and Iron Maiden concerts. There's no real ritual. I don't do that before a gig, but are you talking about before a gig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I just went off on a little tangent there. But no, we just sort of go, oh yeah, what time are we on stage? Oh yeah, in an hour? Cool. And then it's like, all right, what time are we on? 10 minutes, shit! And then it's this big, I've got to take a shit. Or something, there's always some major thing that's out of, like a mountain out of a molehill.
But is there a difference in your level of nervosity if you play on a stage like in front of 5,000 or now on stage in front of like 90,000 maybe, or I don't know?
Nervousness?
Yeah, nervousness, right.
Nervousness. Yeah, nervosity could be a word. I could be. I wouldn't know. I've never read the dictionary. But look, the time where you get nervous is when you're standing behind the stacks. Like, because, we've got to get to the stage for T2, Terminator 2 intro. So when we're there, that's on, and then we're hiding behind the stacks, and then that's the point where it's like, okay, that's when you start to get nervous.
All right, thanks. A wise man once said the words, tradition is not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire. That fits perfectly for me. On Airborne, everybody always says, you're like, the new AC/DC. Would you say that's true? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just woke up, so I'm just trying to think about the ashes and the fire. I'm thinking about the phoenix rising from the ashes and all these other sorts of things that don't really relate to that. But what we are is we're an Aussie pub rock and roll band from Australia, and we're working class. We're a working class band where we do this for a living. This is what we do, and we're out here doing it, and that's what we do.
Okay. What can you tell us? Anything else about your relationship to AC/DC?
Well, steeped in Aussie pub rock. Like Rose Tattoo, AC/DC, The Angels, they born from an era of Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, Lobby Lloyd, and then on from Johnny O'Keefe and the Easy Beats. It's this Aussie way of doing things where in Australia we took the influences of all the American rock and roll and blues, and then the British invasion rock and roll like the Beatles and the Who and and all that. Just think of all those bands. We took all the best bits, kind of no, not the best bits. More like in Australia in the 70s and the 60s, 70s. We took all the simple parts, and played them very, very loud. We knew you had to boogie that's what they knew back then, and knew that you could play any, Rolling Stones song or anything like that, and the crowd in Australia would love it. So eventually, Australians developed their own sound, which became Aussie pub rock and roll, which is a mix of. Really, it's a mix of blues and rock, and just very loud, and kind of like the mentality is, hey, second time you hear the chorus, if you can sing it, it's a good thing. So keep it simple. It's what we do.
All right. AC/DC Roaster 2, okay, that's for sure. But are there any not Australian bands that maybe also influenced your sound?
Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Van Halen, The Who, as Joel said, Status Quo, Metallica.
Okay, I think that's enough. All right. One really crazy question: if Angus Young would call you and tell you that he needs a new drummer because I don't know, Phil Rudd is getting too criminal again, and Chris Slade is too tired or whatever, and he needs a new singer, of course, also because Brian Johnson can't sing anymore, and Axl Rose.
But just to correct you there, Brian Johnson can sing.
I know he's back.
He's just been on stage, so
I know.
You never know. You never know.
But what would you say if he would ask you? Would you say, okay, maybe for one tour, for one concert? I don't know.
Oh, look, if they're in a pinch, of course you'd be honoured. You'd be like, oh, where's the next flight? Let's go. But is that all right with Brian Johnson? Is that all right with everyone to do that? Is it all right with the fans? You want to ask everybody first.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Your last album, Breaking Out of Hell, includes 11 tracks plus one bonus track. There may be 2 or 3 that are maybe a little bit slower or just have a touch of a ballad, of a slower rhythm, but there's not a single song that has any balladesque elements. I don't know how to say it. Will there ever be an airborne ballad?
Well, no, because I don't think we're capable of doing that. We're a very simple sort of band. We sort of do one thing and try and add stuff to it sometimes, like a bit of jam. But
you mean on toast or?
Yeah, sometimes we're like a piece of toast, and sometimes we try to add a bit of jam or maybe some peanut butter. But yeah.
All right, but even Lemmy wrote a ballad here, like "I Ain't No Nice Guy."
I Ain't No Nice Guy with Ozzy and Slash. Yeah.
Maybe something like this one day.
Look, we'll never do the every rose has its thorn sort of vibe. But I mean, I Ain't No Nice Guy After All is a pretty heavy song when you think about the lyrics and stuff. And then when they hit the solo, you got, and we're not incapable of doing a song like that. But like Ryan said, we're definitely incapable of every rose has its thorn.
One simple question, you can also just answer it with 2 or 3 words.
Uh-huh.
What means rock and roll to you?
Life.
Living.
Okay, nice. The song "It's All for Rock and Roll" always asked me if it's about Lemmy Kilmister or if you even thought about him when you wrote it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ryan, you were at Cherry Bar. For the funeral.
Oh, yeah, for the when we were watching the funeral. Yeah, and then we were in. I think we were just in the studio, and we had the riff for actually it was one of the first riffs we had for the record, but we just could never figure out what to write, and it was in the last sort of days of the album recording, and yeah, we just sort of said.
Yeah, I mean, we basically we wanted to write a song, because for Lemmy and to remember him how great he was, because he was and still is rock and roll. He drove the truck and Running Wild for us. And that really lifted the band a lot. And then he had us on quite a few Motorhead tours, and he was always just. He ain't no nice guy after all, but he really was a gentleman, and he helped us out a lot. So it was when we wrote the song, "It's All for Rock and Roll," we wrote it. That's why if you read the verses of that song, you'll see it's clearly written about Lem.
Okay, how did it come to this back then that he became your truck driver? I mean, he also drove the limousine for the Foo Fighters, I think, before, but how did it come to that?
I mean, it was one of those cases where we just asked the question, and he said, "Yeah, no worries, just I'll be at the Rainbow, pick me up, and 2 bottles of Jack, plenty of Coca-Cola and plenty of ice." And
are you serious?
Yeah, 2 bags of salt and vinegar chips. And that was it. And then he came down, he did it. He was at the Rainbow. He said, just make sure it drops me back when you just don't need me to drive the truck. And then he was back there, and that was it. We hung out with him for 3 hours in the limo listening to ZZ Top. It was great. I think we listened to every ZZ Top record in that time. But yeah, right. No, he was that's what I mean of how much a gentleman, of a great rock and roll god that he is.
What do you miss the most on tour?
Carlton Draft VB,
okay.
Aussie beers.
And you?
To be honest, nothing.
Okay, you could go on tour forever.
Yes, absolutely.
So
I'm serious. I mean, I love it out here. I'm more normal out here than I am at home.
So you like touring more than playing in the studio also?
Well, studio's sort of it's where you sort of studio's kind of like where you plan your mission, where you sort of, and then out here's following through with that. So studios, it's its own thing. It can be stressful, and if it's not stressful, then you're not putting in 100%. So.
All right.
But it's not stressful now. This is great.
Okay. What was the weirdest thing that ever happened to you on stage or maybe with a fan of Airborne? There must be anything weird.
Oh, fuck. I don't know. Nah, it's all a blur.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like we could be sitting back tonight, which we probably will be, having a couple of drinks, and stuff like that does pop up. Yeah. But it's when you sort of put on the spot to try and remember something, for some reason it's just such a blur, Yeah,
we've had most of the same crew as well with the band since we started, so. At the end of, we get a couple of shows in a row or 3 shows in a row, have a day off, then everyone will be downstairs on the bus, crew and band, all having a bit of a drink and a bit of a laugh. And then someone will go, oh, you remember that time when this happened? And then you go, oh, yeah, I can remember the time. And then this happened. And then that's when you remember all that stuff. It's when someone says, oh, anything interesting happened to it, go, I don't know.
Okay, maybe it wasn't so important then. What is special to you about Rock am Ring?
Well, I mean, it's the crowds. It's great, diverse crowd, and it's also just huge crowd. Great stage, big stage, very well managed. It's always very, the catering's always fantastic. The crew on stage are always amazing. It always runs really smoothly. So it's always just a pleasure to be here and be a part of it.
All right. In 2008, you supported the headline of yesterday, Die Toten Hosen. Are you still in touch with them, or did you ever get in touch with them? I don't know.
Oh, no. I mean, on tour, though, it was always just like, g'day, man, how you going? You have a bit of a chat and a bit of a laugh, but never sort of... I don't even think mobile phones were really a thing back then.
All right. We already talked about Lemmy. If you could go on stage or on tour or in the studio with any artist or band, even if they're already dead, who would it be?
So Lemmy. Yeah.
You regret that you never went into studio with him, or?
Oh, you mean like on stage, or are we got a gig somewhere, or what's the scenario?
Yeah, I mean, you could have made an album together or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like recording a song like "It Ain't No Nice Go After all with Ozzy, Lemmy, and Slash would be pretty fun. I mean, doing an AC/DC album with Bon Scott would be awesome, or Brian Johnson. Either or. Like it would be good.
Okay.
Classic Rock Radio.